everyone. Hi. Welcome back to True Crime and Wine Wednesdays. I can hear my dog outside the door. Oh, my little nugget. Hold on, you guys. Hold on one sec. Okay, baby. Hi, baby. Hi. I'm not gonna say I'm having the shittiest day because there's people out there really having shitty days. Wow, this quality is so bad. Hold on a second, you guys. What in the actual? Okay. Jeez Louise. Zetus Lapidus. Name that movie. I'm not gonna say I had the shittiest day because there's people out there actually having shitty days, but today has been weird. The vibes have been eh. My mental has been stressed. I didn't get even 1/4 of the list of things I needed to do done. But needless to say, I was gonna check out and be like, I'm not doing true crime because, you know, I don't feel like doing it. But then I thought, you know what's gonna make me feel better? Talking about this motherfucker, Casey Anthony. Cause fuck this bitch. They called her America's most hated female. And it's true, I hate that bitch. So let's get into it. I don't care if you're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. At some point in your life, you're gonna hear and you're gonna know and you're gonna be like, wow, about Casey Anthony. And the sad thing is all we know is Casey Anthony and Casey Anthony and Casey Anthony and Casey Anthony. When really it should be about her daughter, Caylee, the one that, you know, got murdered, buried in the woods, found with duct tape around her skull, and then nobody's sitting in jail for it. Not a single person. So let's start from the very beginning. Once upon a time in Florida, and you know, I've been writing down like your suggestions for cases, and I'll eventually get to, you know, all of them. A lot of mother seems to happen in Florida, you guys. I don't know about y'all, but it's not really on my, you know, list of places to live ever. So if you're in Florida, sorry for the disrespect. I'm just saying a lot of these cases that we read about and we hear about and we're like, oh, I'm never gonna sleep again about happen in Florida. So once upon a time in Florida, there was this bitch, Casey Anthony. Her parents were Cindy and George Anthony. And Cindy, her mother, describes Casey as a bubbly, beautiful, popular teenager. She had tons of friends, lots of boyfriends, and at the age of 19, she got pregnant. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was not a wanted pregnancy or an expected pregnancy. During this entire case and in the trial, and even 15 years later, if it has been 15 years, I believe it has, however many years it's been, we still don't know who her baby daddy is. Supposedly he died, she has his obituary, but everything this chick has ever said has and was a complete and utter lie. But we'll get into that. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. You guys can go back and forth in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything. But needless to say, with the baby daddy not being around and her being a single mother, she told her parents, you know, she told her mom, she thought her mom would freak out and be mad at her and be like, oh my God, you're not doing this. You are getting an abortion or you're giving it up for adoption. But Cindy actually was like super excited. She was like, yeah, I'm about to be a grandmother. Bring it home. I'm gonna help you raise this baby. We're gonna do this together, girl. And it was not what homegirl was expecting. Casey thought her mom was gonna flip out. She thought she'd have an easy exit. She thought maybe I could carry this child, give it up for adoption, maybe I can abort it, but her mom was with the shits. So now she's like, oh damn, I'm 19, I'm like in the prime of like being popular, having lots of boyfriends, having lots of friends, and I'm about to have this kid that's gonna like, you know, f up my swag. That's what this Casey Anthony was probably thinking. And the reason I think she was probably thinking this is because she killed her daughter. But we're gonna get into that. Let's not rush into it. We're not gonna rush into the case. But I'm just saying, the reason She was probably expecting her mom to be mad and praying and hoping and believing that her mom would be mad, is because she low-key did not want to have this child. She was not, and probably will never be, ready to have a child. After she gives birth, she moves in with her parents, or she already lived with her parents, or maybe she never moved out, but regardless, what the case may have you, is that she lived with Cindy, her mother, and George, her father. And they helped raise the child. They all loved her. Her daughter was absolutely so cute, so gorgeous, little adorable little chubby cheek little thing. And from interviews and news articles and everything I've watched, her mom and dad, Cindy and George, absolutely adored their granddaughter. And just like, you know, Gabby lives with mom right now, my mom absolutely adores Marcellus and absolutely adores my brother's daughter. Grandparents just have this like certain, like, some grandparents, I'm not saying all grandparents are like this, because some people don't express or give the same love, but a lot of grandparents, especially with their first grandchildren, adore and love their grandchildren. And from the interviews and the testimonies that I watched and the tears that were flowing and the pleas that were being made, I truly believe that Cindy and George, Casey's parents, absolutely adored their granddaughter Caylee. It's so weird because it's like they named each other with the same letter, but if I do that at all during this, I apologize. Casey is a psychotic, murdering ass mother, literally mother. We'll just say mother. She is a mother, and she can go herself. Okay? That's Casey. Caylee is a cute, adorable, chubby cheek, beautiful baby girl. So they were living with the grandparents. And for any person that has, you know, people that are helping them out, especially if they're single parents, like I see it firsthand with Gabby. Gabby, you know, is a single mom. It's hard being a single mom. Especially like, you know, if my whole life I've had my dad. I'm like, I consider myself to be a daddy's girl. But then, you know, I look at Marcellus, my nephew, and I'm like, damn, you know, the only father figure he has is my brother, who, you know, he doesn't see that often, and my dad, who, you know, obviously is not with my mom anymore, and, you know, he comes over, he's around a lot, but that is literally his sole father figure in his life. And I just picture in my head, if, you know, his dad was around, how different his life would be, and how, you know, you're molded and shaped in different ways when you have love surrounded by you and father figures around you and mother figures around you that actually give a damn. When I see my sister and, you know, how she handles being a single mother, I think, okay, well, Casey was even younger than Gabby when, you know, she got pregnant. She was only 19, still a teenager, literally to a T in the sense. And, you know, she has these two parents that let her live with her, and her daughter can live there too, and they love her and they're helping her raise her. And for people that have that type of luck, consider yourself lucky, because there's people out there that are single parents that don't have, you know, a mom or a father or a house they can live in, or people that can babysit when you just like, you're about to rip your goddamn hair out and you just need a night out. So I looked at it in the sense that Casey was very fortunate and lucky to have her parents, you know, love her enough to help her in this journey of becoming a single mom and doing it right and correctly. Or so they thought they were raising her to do it that way. Little did they know. Little did they know. Casey borrowed the family car. So I believe Cindy and George also drove it, but Casey liked to whip that around too. It got towed. It was out of gas and left somewhere in Orlando, Florida. She had told her parents that she was going on a mini trip with her daughter to Jacksonville, Florida. Come to find out, she was really actually just going to her boyfriend's. Her car ended up getting towed because she just left it somewhere. Obviously, the tow company called Cindy and George because that's Cindy and George's car. It's in their name. Let's fast forward a little bit. On July 15, 2008, Cindy, Casey's mother, calls 911 and she says, "I'd like to report my automobile being stolen." My daughter took it. Her name is Casey Anthony.
I have someone here that I need to be arrested in my home.
They're there right now?
A possible missing child.
During that call, Cindy Anthony also accused her daughter of stealing her car and money.
Her mother calls 911 again that same evening and says, I just found out my granddaughter is missing. She's been missing for over 30 days. I know her. I know who took her. The nanny took her. Please, I need help. Somebody, I need help. Like, you can hear the dramatics in her voice, but you can see how distraught she sounds and how devastated she sounds and how she is just freaking the f out.
I called a little bit ago, the deputy sheriff saying I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Cindy Anthony cries through the report to the dispatcher.
My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her.
Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her months ago that my daughter's been looking for.
The grandmother goes on to describe the missing 3-year-old. Then the dispatcher asks to speak to the toddler's mother.
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days.
And you know who has her?
I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today.
The dispatcher gets some details from the young mother, then asks, why now?
Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago?
I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
So the cops end up showing up to the Anthony residence. They got a dysfunctional ass family arguing and yelling. And we all know what dysfunctional ass families look like. Just look at mine. There's just no murderers in mine. God bless. Thank you. So they're screaming at each other. The cops come in. She's like, my granddaughter, my granddaughter. And, you know, Casey's as cool as a cucumber. Kind of like that Scott Peterson cool as a cucumber. And if you haven't watched my Scott Peterson true crime story, go ahead and rewatch it. And for anyone who's new to my true crime stories, I do not tell stories like anyone else. So even if you heard them 550 times, hear them again and hear them this way. Let's get back to the story. She's screaming that her daughter has been missing, her granddaughter has been missing for 31 days. So at this point, even though Casey and her daughter Caylee have been living with Cindy and George, Casey has been MIA, completely AWOL, for 30 days. The exact amount of time that Caylee has been missing. She told her parents she was going on a little trip, but she was really staying at her boyfriend's. And so cops show up and they ask Casey, well, if your daughter has been missing for, you know, a month, why didn't you call the cops? And she was like, well, I know who took her. And they're like, even if you knew who took her, why wouldn't you call the cops? Freaking out about your daughter's disappearance. I know if I'm a mother and my daughter or my son is missing for 30 days, everyone in the town is going up in flames. Like, I'm burning the motherfucking city to the ground until I find my kid. But you're gonna go 30 days without even telling your mom or your dad that your daughter is missing? What the f were you doing for the past 30 days? Chilling, partying, vibing, getting f by your boyfriend, living the dream life with no kid? It's like, what have you been doing for 30 days? We all want to know, especially me. I hate you. I hate you so much, Casey Anthony. If you're watching this, I f***ing hate you, girl. I fucking hate you. All right. You feel that hate through the camera lens? I hate you. I hate you. But I would, you know, hate you less if you maybe told the world what the fuck you were doing the 30 days your daughter were missing. Because I read every single crime document and I watched every single video. I even watched, you know, everything I could find on TV, including the Lifetime movie. And even from watching all that, I have no explanation or no answer as to what the fuck you were doing for 30 days without your child. You know, we were at Trader Joe's in California, and Marcellus likes to do this thing where he like hides and like pops up and scares us, but you know, Trader Joe's has like the fruits here, and if you walk straight past like the fruits and veggies, there's the meat section. So we're walking straight past the fruit section, and the fruit section has like this bread rack, and then it's got like the fruit rack and like, you know, and the other side of it. And so Marcellus is a little bit behind us. We're in front. We're like kind of in a line. It's Gabby, me, Marcellus. No one's really in Trader Joe's, but it don't matter that no one's in Trader Joe's because you just never know. Especially child abductors or sex traffickers, they just be like on the hunt, ready to like scoop whatever they can, whenever they can. So we're like at the meat section, and maybe about 5-6 seconds pass, and we don't hear him or his step, like, you know, his footsteps, or like, you know, an annoying 6-year-old behind you. And so we turn around, we don't see him. And when I tell you, Gabby fucking flipped that Trader Joe's over. She was screaming through the Trader Joe's, Marcellus! Thinking for just even 6 seconds her son was missing. So Casey Anthony, how could you possibly go 30 days without wondering or calling the cops about your kid? So they sit down with Casey, they ask her, okay, when is the last time you saw your daughter Caylee? And she was like, well, I've been working as an event planner at Universal. I dropped her off with a nanny. I went to work. When I got out of work, I went to go pick up my daughter at the nanny's house, and both the nanny and my daughter were gone. She said she tried calling, the number was disconnected, but sometimes she'd get calls on private. She'd had conversations with her daughter. Her daughter will say, I'm reading stories, or I'm playing books, I'm happy. The story was just really bizarre. None of it made any sense. It's just like, if I dropped my kid off at a babysitter and I rolled up to the babysitters to, you know, pick up my child, and the child and the babysitter just, you know, fell off the face of the planet, I'm calling 911, I'm calling FBI, I'm calling CSI, I'm calling the president, I'm calling the governor, I'm calling literally Donald Trump. And I don't even like Donald Trump. I'm calling everyone and anyone who's gonna give me some goddamn answers about where my kid is at and where the fuck this babysitter's at, because people are gonna die tonight. Okay? If I don't find my child, people are gonna get killed. Alright? Okay? So, to me, I'm like, you know, I remember bits and pieces of this trial because it was such a big deal when it came out, but now I'm rewatching it and I'm just like, so let me get this straight, Casey. You go to work, go to pick up your kid and the babysitter aren't there, and you just get in your car, go to wherever it is you went, and go to bed, go to sleep at night, not call your mom, not call your dad, not call the cops. She didn't call anyone. She didn't tell anyone her daughter was missing, that the nanny was MIA. That doesn't even sound like normal behavior of a psychopath. I don't even know how to classify her behavior because it's so bizarre and it doesn't make any sense. Because, like, you know, most murderers try to cover their tracks. Your story is just bullshit from the very beginning. If I was a cop and I was interviewing her, I'd be like, uh-huh, 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 mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would almost need to tell her to shut the fuck up, but I mean, obviously in the beginning of an investigation, you can't really say that, because, like, what if there's some truth to it? What if the nanny really did run off and, like, take your daughter to, you know, Never Ever Land, and you don't know what she's doing with your child? Maybe you're scared, maybe you're petrified, maybe you think you're protecting her. I don't know. I get why cops couldn't really, like, tell her she's full of shit at the very beginning, but as I'm rereading these, you know, case facts, I'm just like, I almost don't even know what to say. Do you guys have anything to say? Because I don't. So Casey told detectives that she would go to places that she knew that the nanny would take her daughter. Familiar places, like the park or the mall or wherever it is that her daughter would, you know, hang out or go with the nanny. And she said she couldn't find them. investigators were like, well, I mean, you've been living with your parents. Why didn't you come home to your parents? Where have you been for 30 days? And she told detectives that she was highly embarrassed that, you know, she didn't have control of the situation and she didn't want to, you know, feel the wrath of her mom because look how upset my mom is right now. Look at her crying. Look at her freaking out. I just didn't want to deal with that because I'm already stressed out enough. So I just decided to stay at my boyfriend's for 30 days. At this time, Cindy and George, her parents, had no idea who her boyfriend was. They had no idea she was even staying at a boyfriend's house. They thought she took a trip with Caylee to another part of Florida. Meanwhile, her daughter has been missing for 30 plus days. So then investigators are like, well, okay, so you don't want to tell your parents because you're embarrassed, but like, why didn't you call the police? And she said that I didn't call the police because, you know, I don't know what the nanny is gonna do. If I call the cops, is she gonna kill my daughter? If I call the cops, like, what if the nanny finds out and does something to Caylee? And then it's on me, everything is on me. At this point, there's been no ransom note. She hasn't gotten one email, one text, one letter in the mail saying, hey, Casey, I got your daughter Caylee. I want $500,000 right now. I want you to put it in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot in an empty donut box. And once I receive it, I'll give you your daughter back. So if you have no ransom note, no threats, no nothing coming from this nanny that has taken your daughter to who knows where and who knows why, asking you for shit, why would you be scared to call the cops? Because you haven't even been threatened. This is actually like the most perfect opportunity to call the cops because there is no ransom note and you have no threats hanging over your head. So why wouldn't you call the cops? Again, if I was an investigator, I was asking these questions and these were answers, I would just be like, this is just full of shit. I would just automatically think in my mind, you're guilty. You're guilty. Sometimes I really think that maybe I should have been a cop or like at least a private investigator because, you know, they're more in like the shadows trying to figure it out. So she tells investigators that she knows who has her daughter. So they're like, who? She's like, my nanny. Her name, and I apologize in advance if I'm saying this wrong. I think you pronounce it Zenaida or Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. She describes her as half black, half Puerto Rican, 25 years old. She says that that's been her regular nanny for some time now. They're in a routine. She knows her daughter Caylee very well, etc., etc., etc. She tells investigators that her nanny's nickname was actually Zanny the Nanny. So they're like, okay, cool. Take us to this woman's house, show us where she lives, show us where you dropped off your daughter, lead us in the right direction so we can start, you know, putting the pieces of this puzzle together so we can find your daughter. So she takes them to this apartment lot. She points to an apartment building. She doesn't even bring them to a door. She just points to, you know, a building, an apartment door. Casey ends up going home for the night and investigators use the evening to investigate. So they go to this apartment. There's absolutely no furniture. It's completely vacant. It looks like not a single soul was living there. There was no nanny and there was no Caylee. Again, Casey Anthony either made up the story and is lying, or this nanny really picked up shop and moved out of sight and out of that apartment in 30 days. I mean, which is possible, I guess. In 30 days you can actually like pack all your shit and move, but at this point investigators are like, so you bring us to an empty apartment and claim this is where you left your daughter. So at this point, cops are using media outlets to try to get the story out and hopefully, you know, get some clues, get some outside help so they can, you know, figure out what happened to this gorgeous, cute 2.5-year-old. So as the story is coming out, Casey Anthony becomes public enemy #1, as she should. Fuck that bitch. I'm gonna say it again for the people louder in the back. Or I'm gonna say it louder for the people in the back. That. So as the cops are digging and digging and digging and digging, trying to figure out, you know, who this nanny is, Zanny, they talk to the landlord of the building. The landlord's like looking at them crazy like, that apartment's been vacant for months and there has never been a tenant under the name or by the name in which Casey gave the cops as her nanny's name. So now they're like, okay, sis, you brought us to an apartment. You pointed to a vacant apartment. We are now talking to the landlord and they have never, ever had a tenant named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. So again, she's lying. Everything so far has been a lie, which is ultimately making her look guilty. So before they discovered that Zanny the nanny was non-existent, a fictional character in this made-up story, she told investigators that she was an event planner at Universal. She also said that she confided in 2 of her co-workers and told them about the nanny and her daughter. She gave the co-workers names very swiftly, like right off the tongue, no hesitation. When they realized she was lying about the nanny, they decided, you know, let's do a little bit more digging, let's do some more homework, let's go to Universal. So they head to Universal. They talk to the supervisor. They're like, hey, you know, can you show us, you know, Casey Anthony's office? She said she's an event planner here. Come to find out, shocker, Casey hasn't worked there in 2 years. And the 2 people that she named as her co-workers that she confided in have never even worked at Universal. So now it's more lies on top of more lies on top of more lies. And she's looking real guilty from where I'm sitting. She's looking guilty AF. Guilty as So the cops wondered, why is she lying to us? I don't know, guys. Maybe because she did it. Maybe because she's absolutely sociological and pathological and completely out of her right mind. That could be why, but I mean, what do I know? I'm just a bystander doing a true crime YouTube video. So the cops decide to set a trap for Casey to see, you know, her demeanor, how she behaves, how she reacts. So they asked her to bring them to Universal. She complies. They head to Universal. They get to like the little security desk, and for anyone who's been to Universal, I haven't been to the one in Florida, but the one in California, they have like this little security desk and you can't get upstairs at all unless you know someone, you work there, etc. So she goes to the little security desk. She's like, hi, I need to get upstairs. I'm Casey Anthony, I work here. And the guy at the security desk is like, nah sis, like, you don't work here, I don't even know you. She's like, no, I work here. Like, I totally work here. So they're arguing back and forth. She's like giving her supervisor's name, their extension. So after a little while, the supervisor agrees. They decide to go upstairs, probably because the cops were there. And as they get upstairs to the office in which she worked, or used to work, she's walking through the hallways. The cops are behind her. She's waving at people like, hi, how are you? Oh my God, Deborah, it's been so long. You look so good. And you didn't take Thursday off? I did, because I haven't been working here in 2 years. And people are looking at her like, who the f is this bitch? Because she doesn't work there and nobody knows her. And the cops already know she doesn't work there, so they're just like looking at her like, what is wrong with this? Like, what is wrong with you? So they finally come to this like dead-end hallway. And she turns around and she looks at them. She's like, actually guys, I don't actually work here. And they're like, yeah, but we know. Like, we know, you idiot. It's called a trap and you just completely fell into it. They ended up interrogating her, I believe, at Universal's. And I was gonna insert the audio clip here, but I'm just gonna play it and actually like react while we're both like, you know, engaging and listening to it together. So please give me 1 second as I pull up this interrogation. It's only gonna be like a little piece of it because I believe the full interrogation was over an hour. But we're just gonna listen to a little bit of it so we can hear how much she's lying.
She is the
person that I saw her with is Danielle. She's the last person that I've seen my daughter with.
And see, here's the problem. I think Sergeant Allen's trying to get to this, is that we know that's not the truth. You know, listen. We know that that's not true. That can't be the truth. Because if that were the truth, everything you would have told us would have been on the money. The addresses you would have taken us would have been on the money. Everything else would have matched. If you had told us the truth, we wouldn't be here at Universal Studios at a place that you've been fired since 2006. When you're trying to explain to us, you know, you have an office and all that stuff. We wouldn't be here. So we know, and this is the part we need to get past. We already know that you're not telling us the truth, that you know what happened to Caylee, you know where Caylee is. But here's what we're trying to get by, is that you fall into one of two categories, and I'm sure he explained it and I explained it, is that if this is something, an accident that happened, and no matter how you think people are going to look at you, they're going to look at you a lot worse if you continue showing that you're callous or not caring, and that you just show complete dispassion and disregard for human life.
Right.
Or they can look at you as someone that, you know what, I can understand, I'm a young mother, or she's a young mother, first child, something horrible happened. She's thinking, oh my God, my life isn't going good right now.
Right.
I already know my life is struggling. People don't see me in that great of a light. I know I got problems at home, I got problems with friends, I know I got problems at work or lack of work. All of a sudden, something bad happens to my child, and people are going to think, oh, I'm just the devil. See, there's a difference between this person who makes a mistake and says, listen, I'm sorry, this is the reason I lied to you, this is the reason I was scared, compared to the person who might sit here and say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
There's a big difference there. And I can tell you now that everything you told me is a lie. Everything that you've told me this morning, from Zenny, from the addresses, from Universal, from all these people that you've talked to, including people that you never told me their names, and I found them and talked to them. You know, everything that you told me this morning is a lie. Every single thing. There's two options right now. You need to tell me the truth, and we can work with that. Or if you continue down this path and continue lying, I can tell you that when this snowball gets to the bottom of the hill, the only person who's going to get hurt is you.
Period.
That's not true. A lot of people around you get hurt.
Your parents.
A lot of people are hurting right now, and
you know what? One person put a stop to that.
I've been trying.
You haven't been trying.
Wait a minute. Okay. Let's go through this again. Okay. Stop me at the part that I say that's not true, okay? I want to go through this, and I want you to stop me at the part that isn't the truth, okay? You take your daughter and you drop her off on June the 9th, okay, at a babysitter's house, okay? Now, this is a babysitter that lives at this apartment, okay, that's been vacant.
I dropped her off at that apartment,
okay,
at those stairs.
I dropped her off at stairs. What mother drops her daughters off at a pair of stairs?
A bunch of other times. Besides just that day.
Okay, and when you dropped her off, you took her at that point.
Zanny did. She took her at
So
that
you
point.
left her in Zanny's care on June the 9th. Okay? So far that's right.
Yes.
Okay? You first call the police about this when your mother and father, okay, actually you don't call the police to report your daughter, Nelson. What happens is your parents find their car that's been towed from Amscott, and your parents ask you where your daughter is, and you tell your daughter, or your parents, that you haven't seen your daughter for over a month, right? That's true, okay? So I've told you, so far I've said anything's not true, okay? That's true, okay? That's true, sounds reasonable to you, correct? Okay? When the police do get involved, okay, when your parents involve the police in an attempt to locate your child because they're worried, the first thing you do, okay, is you lie to the detective whose job it is to try to find your daughter and get her back into safe hands, okay?
Right.
You give him all kinds of bad addresses to look at, right? Okay? So far I'm on track, correct? Okay? Then you bring us out to Universal where you say you work in an office to try to help find stuff that will help us find your daughter. I'm on track so far, okay? And we get here, we walk all the way down the hall to where you tell us, you don't really work here. You don't have an office here, okay? So far, everything I've said is true, correct? Okay? That sounds reasonable to you, okay? I'm telling you this story. I'm saying to you, listen, I dropped my child off 5 weeks ago at the babysitter's house.
Who drops their kid off for 5 fucking weeks to a babysitter?
No, I didn't call the police and tell them. Matter of fact, I made some attempts to locate her on my own, but I didn't really get the police involved or do anything like my parents asked me what happened to my daughter. I told them I hadn't seen her in 5 weeks. So they called the police, okay? Now what I did is I lied to the police when they got there, okay? I told them a whole bunch of crap that isn't true, gave them a bunch of bad addresses to go look at where I know that my daughter's not there. And I did all this to try to help find my daughter. Makes sense to you, right? That makes sense to you?
No.
It makes sense to you that I'm trying to help the police find my daughter by giving them a bunch of bad addresses?
Right.
That makes sense to you?
That's what I said, yes.
No, I'm asking you. That makes sense to you. My attempt,
That part of it, no.
my attempt to help him find my child, okay? What I've done to try to help him find my child is I've given him a whole bunch of addresses to go to that are bad addresses. That's what I did to help him try to find my child. That makes sense to you?
I took him to the last place that I've seen my daughter. Besides that, I took them to other places that I've
Okay, when you
seen.
brought us here to go look in your office, that was supposed to help us how? Because everything we're doing here is about finding your daughter, okay? So I want you, okay, to explain to me how coming here,
Explain it.
go to an office that you don't have. I want you to tell me how that's helping us find your daughter. Because every bit of focus right now, okay? You got 3 people here to try to help you. That's what we're here to try to help you find your daughter, okay? All right? And we came here to look for clues, to look for evidence that will help us find your daughter, okay? Now I want you to tell me how that's helping find your daughter. We're here to come search your office for anything that will help us, okay? And we're here because you brought us here, right? Now I want you to tell me how that's helping us find your daughter.
Ooh, he's asking those hard-hitting questions, y'all.
Find your daughter. That's the most important thing to look to you right now, right?
Caylee's been up here. Maybe we can talk to security to see if she's come through the front. I know she's come to the park. She's gone to Disney. She's been at Sea World. She's been at other places.
Let's go back to
It's
we're
a
here.
backwards way of
No, it's
of
you know,
looking.
and why do you think it's backwards? It's backwards because you haven't been truthful with us, okay?
Because I've been reaching.
You've been reaching, huh?
I've been reaching to try to figure out a place where she actually is.
So once again, okay, you never did answer my question. You're reaching and helping find her by bringing us here to this office that you don't have. It's helping us find her how? Because what you're doing right now is you're doing everything you can to find your daughter. You have 3 experienced detectives right now whose sole focus is here to help you find your daughter, okay? And we're here because you brought us here, correct?
Correct.
You directed us here because we're going to your office to find evidence. It'll help us find it, okay? Now that we're here, I want you to tell me how that's helping. What is it we're doing here? What's helping us right now, okay? We're coming to an office that doesn't exist.
It's not helping.
Period.
Honestly, I want to come up and try to talk to security. Maybe pass around a picture of Caylee. I legitimately have not seen my daughter in 5 weeks. I didn't let anything happen to her. Except I trusted her with somebody. Somebody that had been taking care of her, that had been taking good care of her. Someone that she was comfortable with, that I was
What
comfortable
about
with.
Jeff? You said Jeff worked here until about 2 months ago?
No, he hasn't worked here for quite a
10
while.
months? How long?
It's been at least 10 months.
Okay. He got fired in 2002. He hasn't been an employee here since 2002. What about the girl?
Juliet.
Yeah, what about her?
She left 2 months ago. That's exactly what she told me.
Juliet Lewis never worked at Universal Studios.
I'm sorry. Is the baby's daddy actually dead?
That's a good question. Who's going to find?
Would your,
I
you-
still have a copy of the obituary at home.
I mean, you've told us so many untruths right now. I'm confused. Would your parents be upset if you had given the baby back to daddy to take back for his grandparents?
Ooh,
for his parents to take
yeah,
care of?
good
He
point.
passed away last year. We hadn't even talked much before that.
Let me ask you this. Is the obituary in your office?
No. I think I have a copy of the obituary at home. There's no office, so there's no anything anywhere. We've made that clear already.
Right.
Ooh.
So, if I have a copy of it still, it would be on my computer at home. I'm pretty sure I kept that. I don't think that's something I would have gotten rid of. She has Maggie with her name.
Okay, I'm not gonna play anymore because that was literally 10 minutes. First of all, can you imagine like how f***ing scary it is to just like sit in interrogation room and just have cops like asking you questions of like, "Ooh, even if I was innocent, like, you're really scaring me right now. But listening to that and having the cops literally ask every question I've been asking since the beginning of me reading all these case facts, I'm like, yo, this chick has no emotion. She's literally just like not like nothing, like almost like she's the devil, bro. I haven't seen my daughter in 5 weeks. I can't let anything happen to her. But that's why I brought you to Universal, because I don't work here and it's not gonna help us at all. I just wanted to like lie and like you know, deflect the fact that it's me. I did it. She sounds so f***ing dumb. Oh my god, it's hard. It's like literally hard to listen to. That was rough. That was rough. And the cops must be looking at her like, you're so... It was like I couldn't find any video footage of the actual interrogation. That's why I just figured I'd play the audio, because the audio was available and we could listen to it together, but I could not find any video footage of the actual interrogation they had at Universal, which sucks, because I would have loved to see her blank ass serial killer stare. Gabby's phone is ringing. She must be asleep. You could hear in that interrogation that she had like literally zero sense of urgency, no emotion. She just didn't seem like a mother who was in panic mode or gave a shit that their daughter has been missing for now over 30 days. I know when people are detectives or cops or, you know, people in the line of duty working on cases like this, the number one thing they look at is suspect's demeanor. And, you know, if you're a mom who has not seen her child in 30 days, you should be acting like a mother who hasn't seen her daughter for 30 days and has no idea where her daughter is at. And Casey Anthony did not show any of that. Answering questions because she hasn't. I wonder what she was thinking. Like, oh my god, I can't wait for this to be over with, so like I can just go back to like not being interrogated by the cops. Like, what the f was she thinking? From the beginning, honestly. I don't know. But anyways, they arrest her and they charge her with child neglect. And they did this in hopes that while she was arrested, she would get so freaked out that she was arrested that she would finally confess to what happened to Caylee or where Caylee was at. That little plan backfired because she didn't confess. She took her ass right to jail, and the whole time was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I had nothing to do with my daughter's disappearance. This is just, why am I here? Why are you guys doing this to me? She like seemed to play victim during this all, not realizing that her daughter is the actual victim. Not you, Casey, but your daughter is the victim here, not you. So while she's in jail, Cindy and George, her parents, visit her. I'm gonna play the recorded phone call for you, but she's giving her mom an attitude. I believe her brother gets on the phone and her brother is like asking her questions and she's giving her brother an attitude. And the whole time Casey's just like, give me Tony's number. And Tony is Anthony Lazaro, who was Casey's boyfriend at the time of all this. So the entire time she's giving whoever she's talking to on the phone an attitude, super rude, not wanting to talk about Caylee whatsoever, and just wants to have her boyfriend call her. Can you give me Anthony's number? Can someone get me Anthony's number? I want to call Anthony. And at one point, whenever, I don't know if it's her friend or whatever, but a friend of hers, it could have been a sister, I don't think she had a sister, but another female gets on the phone, it's not her mom, and she's like, I want Anthony's number, give me Anthony's number. And she goes, well, is Anthony gonna help you? Do you think he knows where Caylee is? She goes, no. She goes, then why do you need to talk to him right now? And it's just like, as a bystander or someone in her, you can even hear her friends and family being like, yo, Casey, hello, your boyfriend is not priority right now. Talking to him while you're in jail is not the priority right now. What the priority is finding your goddamn daughter. So unless Anthony knows something, can help find her, you don't need Anthony's number right now. Period. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that phone conversation with you so you can just hear the asinine ridiculous bullshit. But again, all of this is just making Caylee look guilty, because in fact I do believe she killed her daughter. I don't see any other explanation to it or for it, but we'll get into the prosecution and the defense arguments when we get there, because I'm jumping ahead. But I'm just saying, for someone who was, you know, in 2008 putting on CNN and seeing footage of, you know, the recorded phone conversation, you would think in your mind, this woman killed her child.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, sweetie.
Oh, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far.
You don't know what my involvement is and stuff?
Casey.
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't f***ing know where she's at. Are you kidding me?
Casey, don't waste your call to scream and holler at me.
Waste my call sitting in, the jail?
Whose fault is
bunks are?
Whose fault is you sitting in the jail? You're blaming me that you're sitting in the jail?
Not
Blame
my
yourself
fault.
for telling lies. You mean it's not your fault? What do you mean it's not your fault, sweetheart? If you'd have told them the truth and not lied about everything, they wouldn't...
Do me a favor, just tell me what Tony's number is. I don't want to talk to you right now. Forget it.
I don't have his number.
We'll get it from Lee, because I know Lee's at the house. I saw Mallory's car was out front. It was just on the news. They were just live outside the house.
I know they were.
Well?
Well?
Can you get Tony's number for me so I can call him?
Hey?
Hey, can you give me Tony's number?
I can do that. I don't know what real good it's going to do you at this point.
Well, I'd like to talk to him anyway.
Okay.
Because I called to talk to my mother, and it's f***ing waste. Oh, by the way, I don't want any of you coming up here when I have my first hearing for bond and everything else. Like, don't even waste your time coming up here.
You know, you're making it real tough for anybody to want to try to, even assist you with giving you somebody's phone number. You're not even letting me finish.
Well, go ahead.
You're asking me for Tony's phone number so you can call him, and then you immediately want to start pressing towards me and saying, don't even worry about coming up here for all this stuff and trying to cut us out.
I'm not trying to cut anybody out.
I'm not going around and around with you. You know, that's pretty pointless. I'm not going to go through, not going to put everybody else through the same stuff that you've been putting the police and everybody else through for the last 24 hours and the stuff you've been putting Mom through for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I'm done with that. So you can tell me what's going on. Christina would love to talk to you because she thinks that you will tell her what's going on. Frankly, we're going to find out. Something, whatever's going on, it's going to be found out. So why not do it now?
There's nothing to find out. There's absolutely nothing to find out, and that's even what I told the detective.
Well, you know, everything
I have no clue where Caylee is. If I knew where Caylee was, do you think any of this would be happening? No.
Anyway, you only got a couple minutes for this, so I'm not going to let you completely waste it. Here's Christina. She thinks she can get through.
No, I want Tony's number. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Hello?
Hi, I'm glad everybody's at my house. I'll have to call you later. I'll have to call somebody to get your number. Do me a favor, get my brother back because I need Tony's number.
Okay, is there anything I can do for you?
I'm sitting in jail. There's nothing anybody can do right now.
Well, I'm just trying to be...
Oh, I know you are, honey. I absolutely know that you are, and I appreciate everything that you're trying to do, but I'd like to call Tony. He's not at my house, is he?
No,
okay.
No, it's just me and your parents and Lee.
Okay, well, can you do me a favor and get my brother back or get the number from him, please?
Does Tony have anything to do with Caylee?
No, nothing.
Okay, so why do you want to talk to Tony? You probably don't want to tell me, do you?
Huh?
You probably don't want to tell me, do you?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, does Tony have anything to do with Caylee?
No, Tony had nothing to do with Caylee.
Oh, so why do you want to talk to him? You probably don't want to tell me.
He's my boyfriend, and I want to actually try to sit and talk to him because I didn't get a chance to talk to him earlier because I got arrested on whim today. Because they're blaming me for stuff that I never would do, that I didn't do.
Okay. Well, I'm on your side, you know that.
Oh, honey, I know that. I just want to talk to Tony, get a little bit of...
Casey, you have to tell me if you know anything about Caylee.
Sweetheart,
if anything happens with Caylee, Casey, I'll die. You understand? I'll die. anything happens to that baby.
Oh my God. Calling you guys? A waste. Huge waste. Honey, I love you. You know I would not let anything happen to my daughter. If I knew where she was, this wouldn't be going on.
Well, how come everybody's saying you're lying?
Because nobody's listening to anything that I'm saying. The media completely misconstrued everything that I said. Detectives told them they got all of their information from me, yet at the same time, they're twisting stuff.
Every phone conversation in a jail is obviously recorded, so they were listening to all of our phone conversations. So after this phone conversation, the cops were like, okay, we gotta track down this Anthony Lazaro guy. So they track him down, they go to his apartment, he has roommates. They go in, they talk to him and the roommates, and they're all shocked that Caylee is missing. They have no clue, they're trying to be compliant, they're answering any questions that are asked to them. One of Tony's roommates said that Casey looked like a great mother. She used to bring Caylee over 3 times a week. They had like a really loving relationship. She was really attentive. He didn't get any bad vibes from her, any weird vibes from her. But he did say in the beginning she was bringing Caylee over to Tony's apartment 2 to 3 times a week, and then all of a sudden it was just Casey by herself, no Caylee. Anytime they would ask, you know, where's Caylee at? She would say, oh, she's with the nanny, or oh, she's staying with my parents. She never told Tony or his roommates, you know, my daughter's missing. I have no idea where my daughter is. So how are you going to be in a relationship where you love a guy or he's your boyfriend and you don't even tell him, someone who's literally spent numerous hours and minutes and time with your daughter, that your daughter is missing? You just literally went about living your life like nothing was wrong. Again, I rest my case, guilty. So when investigators dig a little deeper, they realize that Cindy, Casey's mother, didn't just make 2 phone calls to 911, she actually made 3. And she made one panicky phone call to 911 saying, oh my God, my daughter's car, there's something wrong. It smells like there's been a dead body in it. She literally sounds like she's in full-blown meltdown panic mode.
There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the car.
So they obviously go to get this car. They bring it in. They're searching the car. They bring in a police cadaver car. The police dog is walking around the vehicle and it stops at the trunk. So they're like, They open the trunk and they see that it's been vacuumed out. It's been, you can tell that someone has tried to clean it, but there's, you know, a smell. The body, before they even open the trunk, the car itself smelled like a decomposed body, or a body that was decomposing. One of the investigators in one of the documentaries that I watched described it as a smell he would never forget. So when they open the trunk, there's the trunk liner. And in the trunk liner, there's a stain. And the stain was about the size of what could be a child's body. Also in the trunk is a piece of hair. So they cut out a piece of the trunk liner to send it in for forensic testing. And they also take that one piece of hair and send it in for forensic testing. So they bring Cindy and George in for questioning, Casey's parents. At this point, Cindy, the mom who made the frantic 911 call about the nasty, decomposing dead body smell in the car, has completely changed her tune. She's saying that, oh no, you know, I was just saying anything to get the cops to show up as soon as possible. But, you know, I think the old smell was from, you know, old pizza that happened to be in a bag with maggots, and I don't think it was a body, like there's no way, blah, 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 blah. And the cops are like looking at her and they're like, well, I've been in this game, I've been a cop for quite some time, and Cindy used to be a nurse or was a nurse. He looked at her and was like, I know you know there's a difference between the smell of a dead body decomposing versus old, you know, stale, uneaten pizza. And I'm gonna insert the clip of their interview in this video for sure. What I couldn't find though, and what I saw in a documentary, was during this interrogation, at the very end, George, Casey's father, was talking to the cops, and he said, you know, I've had bad vibes from the very beginning. This is my granddaughter. You know, if something happened and Casey did anything, You know, I would want there to be justice. Like, justice needs to be done. I think Cindy probably at this point realized my granddaughter is probably gone. So now I have to protect my daughter. And I'm thinking that George, her father, Casey's father, and Caylee's grandfather was leaning toward, no, if you killed my granddaughter, you're gonna pay for that crime. So you could tell that they're kind of not on the same page.
Did you guys discuss the smell of the car or anything? Not that it really amounts to anything.
Not that I recall, you know, not that I recall talking about that. My main focus when I got Annie was leading,
because I know when Lee beat you back to the house that day, he said, oh my goodness, when he went in the garage.
Oh yeah, you could tell. As soon as we got home, we aired it out. But see, the thing of it was, when George opened the trunk, the guy was with him. That bag, the pizza was in the bag, and it was all closed up. And when he opened because he had to open the bag to see what was in the bag, there was maggots in that pizza in there, and it was bad. I mean, it was really bad.
I'm not going to sit here and split hairs about that.
Well,
and you deserve better than me doing that.
Bottom line is, though,
with you saying that in this conversation.
I mean, but think of it though. I mean, if the car was there from the 27th, and this is fact because Am Scott reported the car on the 27th, and what day, on the 30th, or it was reported one of these 2 days, I don't know. And then Am Scott got towed here. That had to have been closed up in that car for 19 days at least. That bag of stuff. At least through till the 15th when we picked up the car. Because if it was abandoned here,
we're not going to dispute that the car was dropped off on the 27th because we've already talked there.
No, but I'm just saying.
We already talked there.
You know.
But listen, we can't dispute the smell with you. I can only tell you that in over 12 years I've been doing this. You know what I did before coming to missing persons, because that came out in the trial. Okay, I can only tell you what I have sensed before. I know you as a nurse, you've been to the morgue before.
I've smelled dead flesh. I've smelled dead bodies. I've smelled burnt bodies.
And we're not gonna go back and forth with this. I'm just gonna know we're gonna agree to disagree with this. Okay, but what you also need to remember, there are different aspects of this that we need to pay attention to. We're focusing on finding Caylee. I will not come to you and tell you anything but that unless I have definitive proof.
But are you looking for a live Caylee or dead Caylee, Gary?
We're looking for Caylee, Cindy, because we don't know where Caylee is.
So at this point, Casey's been in jail. Her parents go up to visit her. Her demeanor during their visit is blah. Again, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my God, this woman literally only cares about herself. It's always like, you have no idea what I'm going through. How do you think I feel? No, how the do you think your daughter feels? Your daughter has been missing for who knows how long now, and the only person you're talking about is yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert the clip so you can see how awful she is. It's just a small one. The full video is way too long, but I just want to insert a clip so you can see her narcissistic behavior and how she's all about me, I, daughter who? I don't have a daughter. Like, I literally killed her. I'm in jail. Please just, like, get me out of here. That's the vibes I got from her entire conversation with her parents. And I also feel like her parents are, like, kind of scared of her. Like, she almost, like, bullies them or has, like, some type of bully demeanor to her. But that's just me. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. I just don't like this chick at all.
Speak to Mom, okay? No, she's right here. She's pulling at the phone. Hold on.
Alright. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Mom. We're not doing well, Case. None of us. Lee's been sick. Dad's blown up at the media. Yeah, I heard. Well, someone just said that Caylee was dead this morning, that she drowned in the pool. That's the newest story out there. Surprise, surprise. We need to have something to go on. Mom, I don't have anything. I'm sorry. I've been here a month. I've been here a month today. Do you understand how I feel?
Hold on, sweetheart. Settle down, baby.
Nobody's letting me speak. You want me to talk? Then All right, I'll listen to you.
3 seconds to see
Go,
something.
sweetheart.
I'm not in control over any of this because I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what's going on. My entire life has been taken from me. Everything has been taken from me. You don't understand. Everybody wants me to have answers. I don't have any answers because I don't know what's going on. I have no one to talk to except Jose when he comes. It's the only person that I can talk to right now because I can't even say anything to you guys besides telling you that I love you. I want Caylee. Things like that. And that's not even getting put on the air, which it should be. It's everything else. Everything that I'm not saying. Again, that's all I could do was backtrack. I can't backtrack on anything. A month I've been removed from the situation. You guys are not understanding my side on this, and I'm sorry.
Investigators finally tracked down this Zanny the nanny. She's older, she's not 25 like Casey described. They interrogate her, they ask her questions. They're like, do you know Caylee Anthony? Have you ever babysat her? Have you ever been her nanny? She said, no, I've never met that little girl. They asked her if she's ever met Casey Anthony. She says, no, I've never met Casey Anthony. So after hours and hours of interviewing her, they came to the conclusion that this woman, Zanny the nanny, has never come across Casey or Caylee Anthony and had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance or whatever happened to this little girl. So now they are officially looking at Casey as the prime and only suspect. Casey hires a lawyer, Jose Baez, and he was the type of lawyer that you would want to call if you were in a pickle. So she hires him. This bounty hunter who had his own reality show, Leonard Padilla, posted Casey's bond, which I believe was $500,000. So she got out on bond. She was released from jail and put on house arrest. America, her city, her town, everyone was outraged. They would go in front of the Anthony's home. They would, you know, threaten both the mom and the dad. They would call them baby killer supporters. Just kind of like a nightmare. For Cindy and George, they're probably like, oh my God, like, that's our daughter. Like, we can't, like, abandon her. But at the same time, like, we still love our granddaughter and don't want the whole world to think, like, we don't. And we're not trying, and we don't want to find her. So Cindy and George get search and rescue team to come to Florida and fund this rescue and this search. And hundreds of, even maybe thousands of people came and helped out. And it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they didn't find anything. Like, no evidence of her whatsoever. After forensics came back from the trunk, police determined that they had enough to charge Casey. In October of 2008, Casey Anthony was indicted for capital murder and other charges. She pleaded not guilty. On December 11, 2008, a man that worked for a utility company went to go take a piss in the woods. And when he was in the woods, he discovered a skull. So he called 911. He told them he found a skull in a wooded area. This wooded area was very, very, very close to the Anthony family home.
These emergency dispatch, we found a human skull.
Oh my gosh.
I know. We got is it a meter reader?
Yes.
I'm going to speak right now with the representative from our field services facilities. Hi. Everything is recorded. Here he is.
How are you doing? Skull of a, if you believe it's human.
What's the location, please?
It's right off of Suburban and Chickasaw in the Kelly Anthony area, right by the school.
Do you have a specific address for me or not?
No, it's right by the school. If you take it,
he's Suburban and Goldenwood?
Well, Suburban and Chickasaw.
Chickasaw, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the school is right there. I can't think of the name of the school. Just go right straight down. It dead ends right into the woods. Okay. It'll be on the east side of Chickasaw, Suburban.
East side of Chickasaw. And what is your party's name that we're going to meet with? He's not touching this, I hope.
No,
he's
a meter reader.
Meter reader?
Yeah, and I'll just tell him to stay at that location and just stay away from everything.
Okay. And if you can, try to stress to him to please not draw attention to the area.
Okay.
And that would be great, just in case it is something. It may be nothing, but just in case.
Yes.
And you're from what department?
Utilities customer service.
Utilities.
And if you need any information, my phone number is...
Go ahead and send a call up for a deputy to meet with him.
Okay.
And we'll see you there very shortly. What type of vehicle is he going to be in?
Probably a Colorado, small Colorado, white. It'll
White.
have Orange County. It'll have Orange County insignia on it.
Okay. White, Colorado
Yeah, Chevy Colorado.
truck.
Yes.
And with Orange County markings.
Yes.
Orange County markings. Okay, we'll see you there very shortly, okay?
All right. Thank you.
So this medical examiner, I believe she had her own show, Dr. G, did the medical exam on the bones and the skull that was found at this crime scene. After a few days after the bones were discovered, she did make an announcement that the body in fact belonged to Caylee Anthony, and from her own personal expertise, the death of the child could only be ruled a homicide.
It's right around the corner, literally, from the Anthony's home. Also is a black trash bag. As we know, there was a black trash bag in Casey's trunk.
Oh, that was a bad day for me.
Dr. Jan Garavaglia was chief medical examiner at the time of the discovery.
These are my actual notes when I gave the press conference. And basically, this is what I said. With regret,
I'm here to inform you that the skeletal remains found on December 11th are those of the missing toddler, Caylee Anthony.
The manner of death in this case is homicide.
The cause of death will be listed as homicide by undetermined means.
We have a child that is not reported missing. And the body is clearly been hidden. It has been put in 2 plastic bags, then put in a canvas bag, and then thrown behind a rotting log a couple blocks from her house. And then we have the duct tape. 3 overlapping pieces of duct tape over the lower aspect of the face. The duct tape just was the smoking gun.
At this point, Casey has literally become the most hated woman in America. Like literally the most hated woman in America. In the crime scene, the skull was attached. The jaw didn't even displace because there was duct tape that went around like the nose and mouth area that kept the whole skull intact. There was a Winnie the Pooh blanket and 2 trash bags and a canvas bag. Caylee's body had been put in 2 trash bags and then a canvas bag, and the body was also wrapped in a blanket. Investigators obviously got a warrant for the Anthony's home. They go to the Anthony's home, and Caylee's room was actually decorated in Winnie the Pooh. It makes sense that the blanket on the crime scene matched her decor from her bedroom. Their laundry bag in the house was actually a brand that was sold in pairs. The second bag in the pair was the canvas bag that was found on the crime scene. For this trial, they decided that because it would be almost impossible to find people that didn't know about this case or didn't have an opinion already, they brought in people from elsewhere to be on the jury. But before I even get into that, I would like to say that I watched this documentary about Casey Anthony, and you know, when they were getting ready to go to trial, the investigators interviewed one of Casey's childhood friends, and when she got pregnant, her friend described the conversation they had and how Casey did not want to have the child at all. She was not ready. She wanted to give the child up for adoption. And then like a few weeks later, she recalls talking to Casey again, and she was like, no, my mom wants me to keep the baby, so I guess I'm gonna be a mom. And how she just like had absolutely zero desire to be a mother, which would make sense because in my eyes, you have this woman who clearly doesn't care that her daughter was missing, who has pretty much zero reaction and no emotion to her daughter's remains being found. And in the meantime, before she got caught and before she went to jail, she was literally partying and having a great grand old time and living her best life. So it kind of makes sense that these would be actions of a woman who no longer wanted to be a mother, and actually is no longer a mother because her child is now dead. So the prosecution was going to argue that Casey didn't want to be a mother anymore. On Casey's computer, there was searches for how to make chloroform, a bunch of searches. And George, her grandfather, described that she was a very happy, active girl, but about like a month or two before she went missing, he described that there would be some days where she would sleep for like 10 to 13 hours. So some people believe that Zandy the nanny was actually a nickname for her giving her daughter Xanax so her daughter could sleep while she had a good time. And so the prosecution will argue that one of two things happened. She made a chloroform homemade mixture, put it over her daughter's face, wrapped duct tape around her nose and mouth so she could die in her sleep, picked her daughter up, wrapped her in her Winnie the Pooh blanket, stuck her in the trunk, drove to her boyfriend's house, spent time there, left her boyfriend's house, dumped the body in the woods, and then continued to live her regular smuggler, disgusting ass life. They also argue that possibly she was giving Caylee drugs on a regular basis to put her to sleep so she could, you know, do fun things and not have to worry about a babysitter and not have to worry about her parents. One night, Caylee just didn't wake up, and instead of calling the cops, you know, and getting in trouble for drugging her daughter, she decided to get rid of the body and just continue living her life as if, you know, she never had a daughter. Now the defense is gonna come up with a completely different concept. They believe that on June 16, 2008, Cindy went to work, Casey's mother, and George and Casey and Caylee were all at the house. And they were running around the house frantically looking for Caylee everywhere. George opens the sliding French doors or glass doors they had and finds Caylee drowned in the swimming pool. Scoops Caylee up in his arms, and Casey comes running outside and he's screaming at her like, how could you do this? Your mother will never forgive you. This is all your fault. You're going to jail for negligence. And being scared and freaked out and kind of petrified of her dad, she asked, you know, her dad George for help, and George indeed agrees to help her. They would argue that it wasn't actually her that got rid of the body, it was actually her father George. He put her in 2 plastic bags and then into a canvas bag and then buried her in the woods. And she also told her defense team that her dad used to do that to animals of theirs that would die that he would bury in the backyard. And then, you know, he tried to argue, you know, I bet as a jury you're wondering, well, how can we believe anything that this woman says, because she's been lying from the very beginning. Her defense team argues that she's been lying from the beginning because she's been taught and raised how to lie, because she's been carrying this deep, dark family secret for, you know, over a decade. They drop a bomb on the jurors saying that starting at the age of 8, her father George would creep into her bedroom and sexually molest Casey. And because she's so used to, you know, keeping this lie and protecting him, that's why he felt the need to protect her and getting rid of the body. I don't believe that, because why would there be stains in the trunk, and why was there chloroform, and why would he duct tape his granddaughter face and mouth if she was already dead? It didn't make sense to me. But when I was watching the documentary, he didn't really have much emotion when they were accusing him of all these allegations. He just had his head down. And I don't know what I would do if I was a father and I never did any of that, and my daughter was not only a murderer at this point, but is also accusing me of a heinous crime. Who's to say it is or isn't true? It's a whole nother crime in itself, which clearly was never investigated because there's no follow-up anywhere that I could find. That was the argument that the defense had, to basically say Casey was not responsible for her daughter's death. The defense brings George to the stand, and after being accused of, you know, sexually abusing his daughter and helping bury his granddaughter's body, they bring up the fact that in January, George dipped out of town, went to Daytona, Florida, rented a cheap-ass motel, took about 70 pills, and drank tons of beer and tried to kill himself. He left a suicide note. The defense tried to use that as an argument of his guilt. Like, he was feeling so guilty and so overwhelmed by helping Casey and keeping this deep, dark secret from the world and from his wife that he was ready to kill himself. He sat on the stand and basically said, no, I couldn't bear not having my granddaughter, and that I didn't do more, and that I couldn't help. And it was tough. It was a tough situation. I can't imagine what he was going through, especially if all those accusations aren't true, and if in fact he didn't help his daughter hide a body. I can't imagine what it would feel like sitting up there.
3 years of sorrow and strain spilled over the witness stand as George Anthony was reduced to a shattered man.
You learned in December of 2008 that the remains of your granddaughter were found. What effect did that have on you?
A deep hurt inside, and seeing what my wife and my son went through.
Up to that moment, had you held out the hope that Caylee would be found alive?
Absolutely. Every day from July 15th until the day we were told it was Caylee.
Casey was stone-faced, watching her father sobbing openly in court for the first time. His silent grief grew worse during sidebar until finally the lawyers took notice and took pity.
Need a break, Mr. Anthony?
No, sir, I need to get through this. I need to have something inside of me get through this.
Do you need a break, Mr. Anthony?
No, sir, I'm fine.
And still no reaction from Casey as people sobbed in the gallery and a reporter left in tears. But his agony was far from over. He was then confronted with a suicide note he wrote in 2009. Prosecutors trying to prove he had no idea who killed his granddaughter, no matter what the defense says.
She was so close to home. Why was she there? Who placed her there? Why is she gone? Why? For months, you and I always questioned why. I want this to go away for Casey.
When asked why he wrote the note,
I wanted to go. I needed at that time to go and be with Caylee.
Casey's father was then asked point blank the ultimate question of this trial.
Did you ever tell the police that you thought your daughter murdered your granddaughter?
I didn't believe that at that time, sir. No.
A shocking answer in a trial full of surprises.
So then Tony Lazzaro takes the stand, her boyfriend at the time, and he says that on the 16th, the night that Caylee died, they went to Blockbuster, they rented movies. There was actually footage, if I can find it, I'll put it in this video, but a lot of the Casey Anthony videos you have to pay for and are also copywritten, so I don't know if I'll have as much to put in here as I wish. But in the documentary I watched, they were at Blockbuster on the 16th, the day her daughter died, and she's looking happy, she's looking carefree, it's looking like date night. She's looking like a real big piece of shit, because she is.
You ever act scared?
Nope.
Did you ever act nervous?
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter had gone missing?
No.
Did she tell you anything about that there was something wrong with her?
No.
From what I can remember, it was completely, she'd have a book, she'd have her teddy bear, we would go down to the pool, teaching her how to swim, talk about Caylee. Caylee liked to Dora the Explorer and could count to 40 in Spanish, which was pretty incredible for her age.
See the tears rolling down the cheeks of Casey Anthony.
The prosecution also showed pictures of Casey out in the club, dancing, grinding, drinking beer, smiling, laughing, partying, having the time of her life during the time span her daughter was missing. She just looks like someone who is the happiest she's ever been, doesn't have a child that at the time was missing but really was dead. It makes you just cringe. It makes you just be like, what? Like, the devil really walks on this earth, y'all, and in people like her. As a defense team, your main job is to just cast reasonable doubt. Defense just wants to come in there, sneak in, and be like, well, make the people on the jury be like, well, but what if maybe? They just want to cast some reasonable doubt. And that's exactly what the defense did. They argued that chloroform could be anywhere and everywhere. It's in cleaning products, it's in, you know, shit that we use daily. So they said that could be the reason why there was high amounts in the car. They had Cindy Casey's mother take the stand. She took back everything she said about the dead body. She argued and stuck to her story that she believes it was pizza, even though when you stare at her testimony while she's on the stand, she doesn't want to look up. She's barely giving eye contact. You could tell she's lying.
It was your understanding that what you were smelling was garbage, was it
Yes,
not?
sir. Yes, sir.
And you're clear about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the reason you said in the 911 tape that the car smelled like a dead body was because, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury why?
I don't know why I said it that night. It just came out.
Her mother, Cindy, also takes the blame for the search of chloroform on the computer. She said that she was looking up chloroform because her dog ate bamboo and she was scared. She just wanted to, I don't know what bullshit she was coming up with, but she took the blame for the chloroform search. Prosecution came back. They said, that's funny because we have your work timestamps and you were working at the time that chloroform was searched on Casey's computer. So if you were at work, how could you be at two places at once and be searching this on the computer? And she said, oh, the time cards must have been incorrect because I was definitely home. That was me searching it, not Casey.
Stunning statements in court from Casey Anthony's mother. Today, Cindy Anthony claimed she's the one who made online searches on chloroform, not her daughter. Prosecutors want the jury to believe that chloroform was used to kill the child, Caylee Anthony. Chris Martinez joins us now with this surprising testimony that really could punch a big hole in the state's case. Chris?
That's right, Brendan. Prosecutors were not very gentle at all when they questioned Cindy Anthony about her revelation, and they say this is nothing more than a ploy to shift the blame away from Casey.
I looked up chloroform.
That claim by Cindy Anthony could change everything. Casey's mom telling the jury today that she's the one to blame for a string of searches about chloroform on the family computer.
Were you on that website 84 times?
I was on it several times.
Were you on that website 84 times?
I don't know.
It's a different story from the one Cindy has told before under oath. Casey's mom now says she was researching chlorophyll to see if plants in her yard were making her dog sick, and claims that search led to one about chloroform. But Cindy could not explain who was looking online at about the same time for details on other incriminating subjects.
Self-defense.
Yes, I did not search for self-defense.
Household weapons.
I did not search for household weapons.
Neck breaking.
Even though records show Cindy was at work when the searches for chloroform were made, Casey's mom now says she was really at home. It's a flip-flop that could damage the state's case, and it comes the same day reports surfaced that Casey's parents might not think she's innocent.
It almost looked like she was a desperate mother trying to save her child from a life behind bars. I don't know how she could live with herself doing that. If my kid was a murderer or did something terrible to a angelic 2.5-year-old baby girl, you're rotten in a jail cell. And I ain't never visited either. Don't even call me. I'm not picking up. Danielle, you've got a call from corrections facility. Click. I don't know who that is. It ain't my daughter. My daughter died this same day my granddaughter did, or my grandson did. So the defense calls Roy Crunk to the stand, who was the utility worker that found the skull. And in his testimony about finding the skull, he said that he used a stick, stuck it in the eye socket, and lifted the skull up. The defense used that testimony to argue that because of Roy's actions, because he moved and touched things in the crime scene, that the crime scene was fully contaminated. I mean, he shouldn't have picked it up, but like, if you're not a cop or someone who religiously watches like true crime videos, does everyone know that you probably shouldn't touch? And like, not only that, like, there's animals and there's bugs and there's lots of stuff in the crime scene, but that was the defense's argument there. The defense is just banging out these witnesses because they now call up this Dr. Werner Spitz. I might be saying his name wrong, but they call him to the stand, and he explains that the child's fingerprints would be on the inside of the duct tape and the murderer's fingerprints would be on the outside of the duct tape, but there was no fingerprints at all. For me, I'm thinking, we don't know how long, I mean, This trial is months and months and months after the body was put in the woods. Would fingerprints really still be on duct tape months later? I don't know how that works. It could be, but there was 0 fingerprints on the duct tape. None. Which makes you think maybe the murderer was wearing gloves. I don't know, it's interesting. It's an interesting fact. The whole duct tape thing is just like, for me, the argument of the defense that George helped his daughter get rid of his granddaughter's body doesn't make sense to me, because why would they use duct tape? The duct tape makes sense if she drugged her with chloroform and then taped her mouth shut so she'd suffocate to death. That's the only thing that makes sense. Like literally the only explanation that makes sense. Unless every single night she was giving her daughter chloroform or some type of sleeping pill, and she would put duct tape over her mouth so she wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night and like start screaming for mommy and stuff, because she was like busy off in the living room or doing whatever in this guy's apartment and didn't want to be bothered by her daughter. And then the one night she maybe wrapped it too tight and her daughter suffocated or died, and she came back in to take the tape off, realized that her daughter was dead, left it on, threw the body in the trunk, and got rid of the body. But if that's the case, Anthony Lazzaro is full of shit and he's involved. But I also wonder, during this entire case, why no one took a polygraph test. Her boyfriend, the brother, the dad, the mom, Casey. Why were none of them given a lie detector test? And if they were asked to give a lie detector test and denied it, why didn't I read anything about that anywhere? I would love to see Casey Anthony on a lie detector test. Just love it. So during the closing arguments, the defense could not bring up, the sexual abuse allegations again, because he didn't bring it up at all during the trial. He just kind of like dropped that bomb in the beginning of the trial and then just never brought it up again, so he couldn't use it in the closing arguments. But what Jose Baez did, Casey's defense lawyer, he showed a picture of Caylee by the glass sliding French doors, if they're called French doors, pushing it open. And his argument was, here's a picture of, Caylee opening the glass doors. His theory was that she opened the glass door, she went outside, the ladder to the pool, which was usually taken out of the pool so no one can get in, was left in the pool. She climbed into the pool, drowned, and then they got rid of the body. That was their closing argument. On July 5th, 2011, in less than 11 hours, the jury reached a verdict of not guilty. I'm gonna repeat that for you guys, because every time I say it or think about it, On July 5th, 2011, in less than 11 hours, the jury reached the verdict of not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty.
For the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida. State of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony. As to case number 2008 CF 15606-0. As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we the jury find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count 2, we the jury find the defendant not guilty. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated manslaughter of a child, verdict as to count 3, we the jury find the defendant not guilty. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 5. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 6. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict is to count 7. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011.
She was not found guilty of first-degree murder. She was not found guilty of aggravated abuse. And she was not found guilty for aggravated manslaughter on a child. What she was guilty of was 4 counts of misdemeanor of giving false information to police. She had to serve 1 year for every misdemeanor. She got a total of 4 misdemeanors, so that's 4 years. But it was as time is served. She already had served 3 years at that time. So she actually only got 1 year in jail for killing her daughter. So my whole thing is, as a juror, when you're sitting on this bench, how in the actual in less than 11 hours do you all agree that this is innocent? Even when I'm retelling this true crime YouTube, how does anyone in the world, unless every single member of that jury has or has thought about killing their child, find this woman not guilty of even aggravated assault? She's literally not guilty on all charges, except for giving police false information. I feel like I don't know what power judges have, but if I was the judge on the case, I would be like, skirt, I'm gonna overturn this, you're guilty, you're going to jail. I don't know how, even just repeating it for this YouTube, I just don't understand how she was found not guilty on all charges. Like, I'm so curious to who these juror members are, because you let a fucking murderer back on the streets. What, because you wanted to go home because you were tired? Because the trial took too long? Because you didn't want to sit there and argue back and forth, you pieces of shit? Well, karma's a bitch. On July 17, 2011, Caylee Anthony was released from jail. And then she kind of like fell off the map. She like hid out for a while. Her relationship with her parents became estranged. She did a interview recently, I'm not sure what year, but it was like a couple years ago, where everything just seemed really scripted. If I can find bits and pieces of it, I'll definitely put it in this video. But I guess she was working as like an assistant to a private investigator, which is like funny because she's probably trying to figure out how she can get away with her next murder or crime. Let me work for a private investigator so I can learn, you know, how to kill more people.
Face that broke America's heart.
Mama, Papa.
10 years ago, little Caylee Anthony was reported missing, launching a saga that ended in one of the most shocking verdicts ever.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. So
Caylee Anthony was acquitted of her daughter's murder, but she became a pariah, one of the nation's most despised women. This is 32-year-old Caylee Anthony today. She still lives in South Florida. And look, she's got a new tattoo just visible on her shoulder. It appears to cover the infamous tattoo Bella Vita, the beautiful life that she got while partying just 2 weeks after Caylee had been reported missing. I spoke with lawyer Caylee Mason, who was on her defense team.
It has been a decade since this case. What has changed in that time for Caylee?
She's tried to experience some semblance of freedom, but she's never left alone. If she goes out anywhere at all, people will bother her just like frequently they do me.
Caylee opened a photography studio in 2016, but that business has gone bust. She's now working as a researcher for a private detective.
She's very much interested, of course, in investigating criminal cases, is what he does. She does computer research and book research and things to help him.
Her last interview was with Associated Press reporter Josh Rapogel last year, and she was defiant.
I don't give a about what anybody thinks about me. I don't care about that. Yeah. I never will. I'm okay with myself. I sleep pretty good at night.
She put on a show. She cried. She held her daughter's picture, said, "This is my daughter who I love so much." And I felt like she was telling me what I wanted to hear.
Look closely at this AP photo of Casey Anthony at her home. On the wall, little Caylee. And that's an ultrasound photo of the child before she was born. Casey's mother, Cindy Anthony, told Inside Edition that she used to keep little Caylee's room the way it was when she disappeared.
Teddy is holding Caylee's spot at the picnic table. Mr. Pig always joins us.
Today, Casey has no contact with her parents. Her daughter would be 13 years old if she was alive. Casey Anthony was asked what little Caylee would be like today.
I told that I would like to think she'd be listening to classic rock and playing sports and not taking from anybody.
After the trial ended, this guy that was hired, this private investigator, Dominic Casey, who worked for Jose Baez in the defense team, released information that would have been so crucial had he spoke up before the trial was over. But he got hired by Jose Baez, but he didn't get hired to find Caylee Anthony. He was hired to find the body of Caylee Anthony. Dominic Casey says that Jose Baez basically said that Casey admitted to killing her daughter, and he's like, can you please find the body? And once the news broke, the body was found. They all sat down and strategized, okay, how can we spin this story so Casey doesn't have to go to jail? And it was actually Dominic Casey, the private investigator who's spilling all this tea now, that said that they were going through photos of the old family home, and he saw a picture of the pool, and he saw the ladder in the pool, and he said, hey, why don't we use this story that, you know, Caylee came out, drowned in the pool, Grandpa was like, yo, I'm gonna help you, let's get rid of the body. So he's now confessing that it was his idea to use this story and run with it. He also said that there was one night he was going to the office and Casey was running around the office naked. And she confessed to Dominic that she was paying her legal fees in sexual favors because she couldn't afford Jose Baez. How that ever got investigated and how he continued to practice law after is beyond me. This was before the Me Too movement, but still gross, disgusting. Either a prime example of her manipulating and, you know, fooling people, or a man taking advantage of a woman who's in need and can't afford his expertise. And obviously his expertise worked because the was found not guilty. Obviously, when all this news broke, Jose Baez and Casey Anthony denied all the allegations. No, we were not sleeping with each other. I was not paying him in sexual favors. Yada, 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 yada. Again, strap him up to a lie detector test. Let's find out who's really telling the truth. Basically, the story, we will never really know what actually happened. That to Caylee, we don't actually have an actual cause of death. We don't know how she died, where she died, when she died. We don't know for sure who buried the body or whatever, but we do know, and I know in my hearts of hearts, that Casey killed her daughter. Not a stranger, not a nanny, not some random person. It was definitely Casey. So nothing really positive came out of this entire story or this case, except Florida changed their laws after this case, and now people who don't report their children missing are getting charged with neglect on a child and can face 2 decades in jail. So it's cool that they're changing their laws. Oh my god, I just got so scared, but it's Caesar. Hi, my little peanut butter cup. Hi, sweetheart. But anyways, fuck you, Casey Anthony. If you see this YouTube video, you are the epitome of bottom of the barrel trash. I hope you never have any more kids because you're the worst human being on the face of the planet. Oh, and yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this true crime video. Give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but as I always say, if you're giving it a thumbs down, you probably shouldn't be on this channel. But if you are going to be here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell, because if you don't, you won't get notifications. My camera's dying, so I can't do my full outro, but I love you guys to the moon and back. Bye.